You think I'm an idiot, don't you? The grand ballroom of the Vance family estate was a spectacle of flashing lights and forced smiles, the air thick with the clinking of glasses and the buzz of 1,000 conversations. It seemed the entire city's elite had gathered, not to celebrate my union with Serena Albright, but to witness a spectacle. Everyone offered the usual platitudes. Mr. Vance, such good fortune, double happiness. But I knew better. Half of them weren't there to wish us well. They were there for the show. The gossip about Serena's latest dalliance with a younger man had spread through high society faster than the news of our engagement itself. Jax Vance, supposedly the future son-in-law of the powerful Albright group, was merely a decorative figure, a placeholder in their grand designs. They were all waiting to see when I'd crack, when I'd finally lose my composure. I held a glass of exquisite red wine, maintaining a practiced smile, my heart as still as a winter lake. Suddenly, a portly man, his balding head gleaming under the chandeliers, pushed through the crowd, his overstretched suit straining across a prodigious belly. He clapped my shoulder with a laugh that was half sincere, half mocking. "Mr. Vance, I hear you're marrying Miss Albright, and your family's market value has surged by 20 billion. Truly double happiness." It sounded like a blessing, but the undertone was a sneer, implying I was leveraging the Albright name to climb higher. I paused, gently swirling the wine in my glass. The ruby liquid clung to the rim, reflecting grotesquely off his oily face. "You honestly believe the surge in Vance Holdings' value is because Serena and I are getting married?" I asked, my voice smooth. The man faltered, attempting a strained laugh. "Well, isn't it?" "No, it isn't," I cut him off. "Incidentally, your company's land development proposal is still sitting on my desk. Tell you what, the day Serena and I actually marry, I'll approve it for you." His face drained of color. The arrogance vanished, replaced by panic. He grasped my arm, his voice trembling. "Mr. Vance, I misspoke. I truly did. Please forgive my lapse. Don't hold it against a humble man like me." I subtly disengaged his hand, my tone as cool as ice. Too late for apologies. With that, I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard his desperate pleas and the sharp intake of breath from other guests. I didn't spare him another glance. Such people weren't worth my time. I stepped onto the outdoor balcony, leaning against the railing, when a couple slowly entered the ballroom below. The woman, elegantly slender in a designer gown, was Serena Albright. Beside her was a young man, unfamiliar to me. Not the usual sun-kissed, urbane type she often kept company with, but more like a bewildered university student out of his element. His tailored suit clearly didn't fit, and his gait was unsteady. Before I could scrutinize him further, he stumbled, colliding with a nearby socialite, and spilling champagne all over the man's expensive attire. The young man's face flushed crimson. "I'm so sorry, so sorry. I didn't mean to." The ballroom air instantly froze. All eyes turned to them, whispers rippling through the crowd. "Who is that? Never seen him before. Must be some new money. No manners at all. Why would Serena bring him? How embarrassing." The young man stood flustered, his hands flapping awkwardly. Serena, however, acted as if nothing had happened, even bending to adjust his tie. A cold smile touched my lips. I descended the grand staircase, my voice cutting through the suddenly hushed atmosphere. "Ladies and gentlemen, don't just stand there. I've just had several cases of a rare vintage Bordeaux delivered. If you're inclined, I'll have a few bottles sent to each of your homes as a token." The words instantly dispelled the tension. Guests forgot the recent faux pas, erupting in grateful chatter. The lively atmosphere returned. I walked directly to the young man, surveying him from head to toe. "I don't believe we've met. Who are you with? Do you have an invitation?" He scratched his head, his voice timid. "My name is Leo." Then, to my astonishment, Leo clutched Serena's hand, leaning close to her ear to whisper, "Serena, who is this man? His voice is so harsh. Aren't all people equal? What right does he have to speak to me like that?" I heard every word. Before I could respond, Serena shot me a glacial look and said, "This is the man you brought here. Is there a problem?" I raised an eyebrow. maintaining my smile. Of course not. No problem at all. But my mind was already racing. He dared to openly disrespect me, her fiancé, in front of so many people. They both had crossed a line. Don't blame me for what comes next. Before the engagement party even ended, I instructed my assistant to prepare the documents. First thing tomorrow morning, I would issue an ultimatum to the Albright Group, demanding immediate repayment of the $500 million they owed Vance Holdings. The next morning at the office, I sensed a strange atmosphere the moment I stepped into the elevator. Middle managers, who usually greeted me with deferential nods, now avoided eye contact. As I reached the top-floor boardroom, the doors opened to reveal a semicircle of 7 or 8 gray-haired directors, their faces stretched long and grim, as if I owed them millions. Before I could even sit, Councilman Thorne, seated at the head of the table, slammed his fist down. He pointed a trembling finger at me. "Jax, what is this? The engagement party was just yesterday, and today you've sent an ultimatum demanding $500 million from the Albright Group? Do you understand how this affects our alliance? The industry is laughing at us." Director Hayes chimed in from beside him. "Precisely. Our alliance with the Albrights is the solution to everything. The Albright Group still holds significant value. We can't jeopardize the relationship." I pulled out a chair, tossed my briefcase onto the table, and let out a soft, cold chuckle. "A solution? Why don't you try forging your own alliances? Go and marry into another family." I continued, "What did Serena Albright do to me at the engagement party? Did none of you see? She brought a stranger and publicly humiliated me. Did you truly believe I was such an easy target?" Councilman Thorne attempted to threaten me further, asserting that any disruption would harm our cooperation with the Albright Group. I cut him off, leaning forward, my gaze sweeping across everyone present. Vance Holdings currently needs precisely that sum for several key projects. $500 million is a legitimate debt, clearly documented. Demanding repayment now is only logical. Furthermore, if you genuinely infuriate me, it won't just be $500 million. I'll teach the entire Albright family a lesson in silence. The room fell silent the moment the words left my lips. No one dared to speak. But I knew the old guard wasn't truly convinced. They had done business with the Albrights for decades, accustomed to stability through marital alliances. I didn't waste time arguing further. I laid my cards on the table. Here is my condition. Those who comply will continue to receive their dividends. I guarantee you a prosperous life. Those who still wish to oppose me, believing they can cling to the Albright Group, may pack their belongings and leave. Or I will ensure you find yourselves in jail. Choose. Over the next 10 days, I held over a dozen marathon meetings, arguing with the old directors by day and processing urgent company files by night. I applied relentless pressure until all resistance was crushed. One particular director, Mr. Vance, secretly relayed information to the Albright Group. I had him investigated, uncovered evidence of his embezzlement of company funds, and had him arrested the very next day. The others, witnessing this swift and ruthless action, became compliant. No one dared to utter the word alliance again. With internal matters largely resolved, I instructed my assistant to formally send the ultimatum to the Albright Group. In less than half a day, chaos reportedly erupted on their end. Senior executives made frantic calls. Serena's father even smashed a cup on his desk. I sat in my office, gazing out at the towering city skyline, my heart unperturbed. This was Serena's debt and the Albright Group's debt to Vance Holdings. This was just the beginning. That afternoon, my assistant entered, informing me that someone from the Albright Group wished to meet. He asked if I would receive them. I leaned back in my chair, rubbing my temples, and replied calmly, "No. Tell them to either deliver the $500 million within 3 days or await a court summons. Gather all files on cooperative projects between our companies. We're preparing to terminate them all." I added, my voice steel, "If they hold me in such low regard, there's no need to continue our cooperation." My assistant nodded, turning to leave, but I added, "Oh, one more thing. Keep a close eye on Serena Albright. See what she's planning." I understood her well. Serena would never sit idly by and wait for ruin. Given her nature, she would likely come to me herself. But it didn't matter. I was ready for whatever theatrics she planned. This play had only just begun. After half a month of resolving internal company turmoil and sparring with the Albright group, I left work promptly that day. Stepping out of the building, I noticed my Maybach wasn't there. Normally, my driver would be waiting in the usual spot, but today the car was absent. I had just pulled out my phone to call him when I heard the roar of an engine. A garish pink luxury car sped towards me, stopping abruptly at my feet. Looking up, I immediately recognized Serena Albright's custom-ordered vehicle. The gold trim along its side had once caused a stir in high society, rumored to have cost a six-figure sum. She'd used that car to trend online countless times, earning herself the rather cheap moniker Golden Heiress. The window lowered, and Serena leaned out. She wore a flamboyant red gown and 10-centimeter heels, her hair neatly styled without a single strand out of place, but her face was grim. Before I could speak, she frowned, her voice icy. "Jax Vance, have you lost your mind? Go get your head checked. Do you know what it means to send an ultimatum for $500 million and cancel all our cooperation files? What are you trying to do?" I didn't answer. Instead, I simply tossed the thick briefcase in my hand directly at her. The heavy folder struck her, making her stumble slightly. I spoke slowly, my voice deceptively gentle. "Nothing at all. I just no longer wish to cooperate with the Albright group. Can't you read?" Serena looked down, flipping through the documents. Her face shifted from white to green, then slowly darkened to black. Her fingers trembled as she pointed at the papers, her voice cracking. "Jax Vance, do you realize how much the Albright group will lose if these contracts are canceled? Don't think for a moment this will impress me. You'd best reinstate the cooperation immediately. At least then we can save face publicly." I found her words amusing. Even now, she failed to grasp the situation. Was it my fault things had come to this? Or was it Serena Albright, flaunting young men day after day, treating me as if I didn't exist? I didn't bother to argue, merely glanced at the passenger seat. Leo was sprawled across the window, furtively peeking out at me. When he saw me looking, he hastily ducked back inside, hitting his head with a soft thud and a faint yelp. I raised an eyebrow, a faint, cold smile playing on my lips. I looked at Serena. "Fine. If you want to talk, let's talk in your car. Bring it over here." Serena reflexively turned to look at the passenger seat, then remembered the hidden presence. Her face immediately flushed bright red. "Wait a moment," she stammered. "I just need to handle something in the car." She slammed the door, shifted into reverse, and sped, with a screech of tires, into the small copse of trees nearby. I remained rooted to the spot. A short while later, my Maybach pulled up, my driver quickly emerging, bowing his head apologetically. "Mr. Vance, I'm so sorry. Miss Albright called me earlier, said you'd be riding with her, and I needn't wait." I didn't dare argue, but I also didn't go far, just parked nearby. I clapped him on the shoulder. "It's fine. Not your fault." As I settled into my car, I saw Serena emerge from the trees. Her hair was disheveled, her dress covered in grass. She looked nothing like the elegant socialite she'd been. Seeing me not only waiting, but already in my own car, she erupted in fury. She rushed over, pounding on my window, screaming, "Jax Vance, you've played with me for 25 years, and now you dare to play me?" I lowered the car window just a crack, gazing at Serena's face, trembling with rage. A cold laugh escaped me. "Play you? I find your car, and frankly, its occupants, quite unsavory." Following my gaze, Serena turned to her car, only to discover the paint on its side was deeply scratched by branches, the wheels caked with mud. Her luxury car, worth tens of millions, looked as if it had just rolled out of a swamp. Before she could speak, Leo's voice echoed from the trees. "Serena, why did you make me get out?" I glanced over. Leo emerged from the bushes, his hair askew, his trousers stained with mud. He looked like a drowned rat. Seeing him, Serena's face burned crimson. She instinctively recoiled, quickly saying, "Jax, don't misunderstand. He and I are innocent. I chuckled, my eyes hardening. Innocent? Coming from your lips, those words are truly laughable. At best, you've only just begun your scandalous charade, haven't you? Without waiting for her to say more, I gave my driver a cold command. Drive. The Maybach sped away, leaving behind a pale-faced Serena and a bewildered Leo asking questions by her side. I leaned back in my seat, my heart unruffled. Before, I tolerated her simply because the Albright group still held value. It was a transaction of interests. But now that she had pushed things this far, she and her family would pay the price. Upon returning to my office, my assistant quietly entered, carrying a file, which he respectfully placed on my desk. Mr. Vance, the information on Leo has been compiled. I leaned back in my chair and picked up the file. The details were stark. He was a second-year university student. His family recently suffered a crisis, burdened by crippling debt. To pay for a family member's medical treatment, he worked part-time at an upscale bar, serving drinks and entertaining guests. It was there he met Serena Albright, who was then heavily intoxicated. Leo had kindly looked after her all night. Serena, touched by his chivalry, had since seen only him. I snapped the file shut, a half-smile on my face. How familiar this plot is, isn't it? Just like those cheap romance novels I read as a youth. The male leads always follow the same template. My assistant stood silently beside me. Back then, I continued, I used to wonder what was so appealing about these types of protagonists. In the end, they only exchanged themselves for the fleeting affections of women. Being a magnate is far more satisfying, getting whatever you desire, effortlessly shaping fortunes. That's true power. My assistant, sensing my improved mood, cautiously asked, Mr. Vance, should I arrange for Leo to disappear? To prevent any further entanglement with Miss Albright and spare you any bother. I shook my head, tapping my fingers lightly on the desk, a cold smirk on my lips. No need to rush. It's rare to find such an entertaining play. Let him perform a few more acts. Their love needs a little more spice. Let's see how long their so-called unwavering affection truly lasts. My assistant immediately understood, nodding. Understood. I'll arrange it. Half an hour later, he returned to report. The wedding invitations for you and Miss Albright have been dispatched. A special one was sent to Leo, addressed to his university dorm. I picked up my teacup, took a sip, and said nonchalantly, Good. Well done. Keep a close watch. Report any developments immediately. Approximately 3 hours later, my assistant rushed back in, a clear look of amusement on his face. Mr. Vance knew intelligence. After receiving the invitation, Leo left Miss Albright a note. He said he no longer wanted to be involved and decided to withdraw. I raised an eyebrow, a little surprised, but also finding it logical. He was merely someone who wanted to cling to the coattails of the elite. Now, seeing Serena and I about to marry, knowing his opportunity was gone, withdrawing was understandable. Knowing he had no further prospects, Leo would naturally retreat. But Serena's reaction, that was the truly interesting part. My assistant continued, his voice still brimming with interest. After Miss Albright saw the note, she immediately flew into a rage. She mobilized every connection she had, sending people to search for Leo's whereabouts, even dispatching all her private bodyguards. She drove out herself, vowing to find him and bring him back. I found it utterly amusing. Serena Albright was truly enacting a scene out of a tragic romance novel, pursuing her lover with more fervor than any fictional character. I heard she was so desperate she didn't even change out of her dress, running out in those 10-centimeter heels. On the way, in her haste, she ran 2 red lights and nearly collided with another car. My assistant added, Now the entire high society is buzzing about this. Everyone is saying Miss Albright has lost all her aristocratic dignity over a university student. I smiled faintly, pulled out my phone, and opened a folder containing those melodramatic novels I used to read for amusement. In my free time, I once enjoyed a few for entertainment, but now, looking at titles like The Magnate Loves Me or Rich Heiress Pursues Poor Boy, I found them utterly bland. I selected all, pressed delete, and watched the progress bar inch to the end, my heart completely unmoved. After all, those things were mere fantasies. No matter how dramatic the love in those stories, when faced with reality, it was worth less than a single coin. The only things that truly existed were the power in my hands and the legacy of Vance Holdings. My assistant, seeing me clear the data, asked, "Mr. Vance, is there anything else you'd like me to do? Perhaps send Miss Albright a video of how pathetic she looks right now." I gently shook my head, leaning back in my chair, and closed my eyes. No need. Let her run wild. The crazier she gets, the better. Only when she's sufficiently deranged will she understand how foolish she truly is. And bring me the latest financial report for the Albright Group tomorrow morning. I want to see how much capital they have left for her to squander. My assistant immediately affirmed, then quietly withdrew. The room fell silent again. I looked out the window as the evening twilight faded. I knew perfectly well that tonight, both Serena Albright and Leo would undoubtedly lose sleep. As for me, I was only just serving the appetizer. The main course was yet to come. The next day, I left work on time. The elevator slowly descended to the ground floor. The doors opened, and I saw someone sitting in the waiting area. It was Leo. He wore a crumpled shirt, his hair disheveled, his face drawn with exhaustion. Around him, several Vance Holdings security guards stood in a tight circle, their eyes vigilant, ready to act at any moment. I frowned slightly. My assistant immediately understood, quietly pressing the emergency alarm button on the wall. This button connected directly to the nearest police station. Normally unused, I thought, but today's a perfect opportunity to test it. Leo looked up, saw me, and sprang from his seat, his eyes filled with both resentment and malice. "Jax Vance, you're finally out. I've been waiting for you for so long." I paid him no mind, simply walking calmly towards the exit. He tried to rush forward to block me, but was firmly restrained by the security guards. Less than a minute later, police sirens wailed outside. 2 police officers entered. I stepped forward to greet them, my expression calm, my voice composed. "Officers, I'm the one who reported this. Someone has unlawfully trespassed into our company and refuses to leave. Please handle the matter." Hearing this, Leo immediately struggled, shouting, "No, I didn't trespass. These security guards held me here. I just want to speak to him and clarify things." I turned to the 2 officers, my voice steady, my gaze cold. "You see, our company has an access control system. Outsiders must register to enter. He neither registered nor had an appointment. If that's not trespassing, what is? Furthermore, all employees here can attest he's been in this lobby for nearly an hour and deliberately tried to accost me." The 2 officers glanced at Leo, then turned to question the receptionist who was witnessing the scene. One officer looked at Leo, his voice calm but firm. "Young man, no matter what conflict you have, you cannot arbitrarily barge into someone else's company. This is a lawful society. Any disputes must be handled through legal channels." Leo's face flushed. He struggled against the security guards, pointing a finger at me and yelling, "I know everything. You can't fool me. It was you, wasn't it? You sent me the wedding invitation for you and Serena. You did it on purpose to force me to withdraw. But I'm telling you, never." I couldn't help but laugh. I walked to a sofa, sat down, and said leisurely, "Oh, really? So tell me, how exactly did I force you to withdraw?" Before Leo could open his mouth, my assistant stepped forward, his voice cold. "Mr. Leo, Mr. Vance sent you an invitation out of respect for the Albright family, a gesture to allow you some dignity. Don't be ungrateful. To be a third party and still act so self-righteous is truly ludicrous. Do you truly believe you can compare yourself to Mr. Vance?" With that, my assistant turned back to me. I simply smiled and nodded, accepting a cup of tea from the server. This tea cost tens of thousands per pound. It truly soothed the throat. I slowly took a sip, thinking money truly is wonderful. Even the person who speaks on my behalf is a graduate of a prestigious university. Leo was speechless, trembling. He suddenly yelled, "Jax Vance, don't go too far. Serena Albright loves me. For me, she can spend millions, even block traffic, defy the whole world. What has she ever done for you besides that engagement? Are you worthy of her heart? I set down my teacup, my voice detached. First, blocking traffic is a crime. Didn't you know that? Serena Albright dared to break the law for you. If you hadn't mentioned it, I would have almost forgotten to have her arrested. I paused, my gaze calm but chilling. Secondly, haven't you read the news? Yesterday, the Albright Group stock was halted by my order. It's currently plummeting. I leaned forward, looking directly into Leo's progressively paling face. But congratulations. When Serena Albright is released from jail and the Albright Group officially goes bankrupt, you will have the love of a woman who is both bankrupt and has a criminal record. Aren't you happy? Leo froze, his pupils dilating, stunned for nearly 2 seconds. Clearly, he was unaware that I had pushed the Albright Group to the brink. His mind was still dreaming of climbing into high society. After a moment, he gritted his teeth and said, "This is clearly a feud between you and me. Why must you drag innocent people into it? If you have the guts, come for me directly." I took a handkerchief from my assistant, leisurely wiped a few drops of water from the back of my hand, then tossed the handkerchief onto the floor at his feet. Come for you? Take a look at yourself. Have you forgotten the price of entertaining guests at that club? $1,500 for an evening, wasn't it? Even if you didn't sell yourself, you certainly didn't shy away from flattering clients. And now you dare to pretend to be moral? My assistant, standing beside me, added, his tone grave and sarcastic, "Indeed, Mr. Leo. Our company, Vance Holdings, is currently valued at approximately $150 billion. Compared to that, the $1,500 you mentioned truly does seem a bit small." Leo's face instantly turned ashen, as if he had heard the most malevolent curse in the world. He clenched his fists, his eyes filled with resentment, but he couldn't utter another word. Finally, he could only turn and flee from the building. I watched his retreating back, then said coolly to my assistant, "Don't let Serena Albright's actions from yesterday be forgotten. Find a few reputable media outlets. Tell them to report the full story clearly. Say Vance Holdings is sponsoring the full disclosure of the truth. I want to see if the public is willing to pay for her magnificent love." My assistant nodded immediately. "Yes, Mr. Vance, I'll arrange it right away." I put my hand in my pockets and slowly walked out of the main hall. The evening breeze blew, and the irritation in my heart gradually dissipated. Someone like Leo was simply not worth my concern. Next, it was Serena Albright's turn to taste the consequences of her own making. Less than half a day later, my assistant reported, "Mr. Vance, things are spreading faster than anticipated. The media outlets we partnered with have posted surveillance video of Serena Albright blocking the bus, along with a detailed timeline. It's already trending." I opened my phone to watch the video. On the screen, Serena Albright's pink luxury car was parked squarely across a pedestrian lane. Behind it, 3 escort vehicles blocked the entire street, completely trapping a public bus. The bus driver blared his horn continuously, while Serena's car windows remained closed and motionless. The standoff lasted for nearly half an hour, until Leo slowly descended from the bus. Serena immediately rushed forward, grabbing his arm right in front of all the bus passengers. They embraced tightly, exchanging intimate words that made outsiders uncomfortable. Finally, they walked away hand in hand, leaving behind a crowd of angry passengers and a long line of gridlocked traffic. The comments section beneath the video had long since exploded with curses. One person wrote, "Last night I was called in for overtime. I took the bus to save money, but I got caught in this. Stuck for an hour, and I got fired." Another commented, "That's nothing." The entire main road was blocked yesterday. Thousands of cars couldn't move, and traffic police couldn't get through. I was stuck in my car for 3 hours, almost wet myself. There were even more sarcastic and bitter comments. Indeed, it shows their true nature. The poor are forever just toys in the hands of the rich. We ordinary people already suffer enough. Don't let their so-called fairy tale love harm any more innocent people. I read those comments, a faint smirk playing on my lips. This was precisely the effect I wanted. to show the world the kind of love Serena Albright worshipped, built upon the troubles and harm of countless others. Before I could finish watching, my assistant entered again, his voice urgent. "Mr. Vance, the traffic police just released an announcement. They said they will provide a clear explanation to the public and will absolutely not let the suspect off the hook. They've already sent people to the Albright residence." I wasn't surprised in the least. That pink luxury car was too distinctive. Everyone in high society knew it belonged to Serena Albright. In the past, she might have relied on the Albright family's influence to cover up minor mistakes, but this time, the uproar was too great, public outrage soaring. No one could save her. Indeed, that afternoon, news broke that Serena Albright had been taken in for questioning by the traffic police. The pink luxury car was impounded as evidence. She was reportedly to be held for an unspecified period. The Albright group immediately descended into chaos. Partners called ceaselessly to cancel contracts, and Albright Corporation's stock plummeted dramatically, practically becoming worthless. 3 days later, as I sat in my office reviewing the Albright Corporation's financial reports, my butler entered, speaking softly. "Mrs. Albright is here, sir. She's waiting in the drawing room downstairs. She seems quite distressed." I set down the report, adjusted my suit collar, and slowly made my way downstairs. What was meant to come eventually arrived. Entering the drawing room, I saw Mrs. Albright on the sofa, her eyes swollen red, her hair disheveled. She bore no resemblance to her former elegant self. The moment she saw me, she sprang up, grabbing my hand, her voice trembling. "Jax, only you can save the Albright group now. Serena is young. She doesn't understand things. She made a mistake, but the Albright group cannot fall." I feigned concern, gently helping her sit down, and instructed a servant to pour her some tea. "Auntie, please don't be agitated. I've heard about Serena's situation. I've been in contact with a friend at the courthouse these past few days, seeing if we can secure probation or a reduced sentence for her, to lessen her hardship." No sooner had I finished speaking than Mrs. Albright let out a cry of, "Oh, heavens," and fainted onto the sofa. I chuckled inwardly. Quite a performance. I deliberately instructed the servant to help her lie down while I stepped onto the balcony, pretending to make a call, my voice loud enough to be heard. "Hello, is that Justice Miller? This is Jax Vance. Regarding Serena Albright's case, can you please show some leniency?" I spoke deliberately loudly, ensuring Mrs. Albright heard every word. Sure enough, in less than a few minutes, she revived, clutching my hand, her eyes welling with tears. "Jax, you truly are a good boy. Once Serena is out, you two must set a wedding date quickly. Don't let her be tempted by other men outside again." I made a show of hesitation, sighing softly. "Annie, I'm afraid Serena and I truly have no destiny. I can see she genuinely loves Leo. This whole incident was for him. They are a match made in heaven. Perhaps I should just withdraw now." The corner of Mrs. Albright's mouth, which had just begun to curve upward, immediately tightened. Her eyes turned cold, her voice dropping. "That boy, I won't let him get away with it. Jax, don't worry. The future son-in-law of the Albright family is only you. You know, people like us, born into families like ours, talk of one love for life is just fanciful. Serena's dalliances outside are insignificant, not worth mentioning." I gently pulled my hand away from hers, a faint, cold smile playing on my lips. "Auntie, that's not a very flattering thing to say. If Serena is free to pursue relationships outside of our arrangement, then my own choices should be equally respected. If you see no problem with it, I can call a few beautiful women over right now. And no matter how many companions I have, Serena's position as my wife will remain unchanged. What do you think, Mrs.?" Albright was stunned, her mouth agape, unable to speak. Her pearl necklace, clutched in her hand, fell to the floor, scattering into pieces. She couldn't find a counter-argument, only trying to persuade me to be patient. I sighed softly, my voice softening. "Auntie, please don't blame me. I genuinely want to marry Serena, but she's currently in detention. The Albright group is in disarray, and Leo is still causing trouble outside. Even if I wanted to marry her, my family elders would never agree to me marrying someone whose family is entangled in legal trouble. Hearing a glimmer of hope, Mrs. Albright immediately sat upright, grasping my hands, her voice urgent. Jax, don't worry. I will handle that Leo character thoroughly. And for internal matters, I will take care of everything. You just wait for good news. I smiled and nodded, personally escorting her to the villa door. I was just lamenting not having a reason to intervene in the Albright group's internal affairs, and she's delivered the opportunity right to my doorstep, I thought. Serena was the Albright family's sole heir, but now she was disgraced, and the family was a chaotic mess. Only Vance Holdings had the power to rescue them, and the condition for that rescue was for Vance Holdings to acquire the entire Albright Corporation. After seeing Mrs. Albright off, I immediately called my assistant, instructing him to prepare a contract for the acquisition of the Albright Corporation. No need for complexity, I said. Just make it clear that after Vance Holdings invests, we will hold absolute control over Albright Corporation. Additionally, transfer a separate sum of money to Mrs. Albright. Not too much, just enough to sway her. My assistant replied, Yes, Mr. Vance, I'll have the contract and transfer documents ready for your review tomorrow morning. I hung up, looking out the window at the inky black night sky. Mrs. Albright thought she had found a lifeline, unaware that she had just personally pushed the entire Albright family into my pocket. All I had to do was wait for her to sign a contract, then secure Serena's release from detention. I wanted to see firsthand how she would face all of this. 3 days later, I instructed my assistant to bring the contract and transfer documents to Mrs. Albright. Her eyes lit up at the sum displayed in the account. Without bothering to read the terms carefully, she immediately signed her name at the bottom of the page, talking incessantly as she did so. Jax, Albright Corporation is entirely yours from now on. When Serena gets out, she'll surely thank you. I looked at her fresh signature, a slight smirk on my lips. Don't worry, Annie. I will handle Albright Corporation properly. But in my heart, I knew perfectly well that when Serena Albright was released, she would no longer be the heir to the Albright family. She would merely be an empty shell in my hands, a puppet controlled by Vance Holdings. After the contract was finalized, I immediately used my connections to find acquaintances in the courts and detention center, submitting all necessary bail documents. In truth, it was all a formality. By then, the fate of the Albright Corporation was in my hands, and no one dared to disrespect Jax Vance. About a week later, my assistant reported, Mr. Vance, Serena Albright has been released on bail. I didn't go to pick her up, but I had people follow her movements. As expected, the moment Serena stepped out of the detention center gates, she didn't go home. Instead, she hailed a taxi and went directly to Leo's apartment building. She even intentionally had the driver circle past my company building, clearly hoping I would see her. I smiled, deciding to go with the flow, and told my driver to follow, entering the apartment complex behind her. As the door opened, the first sight that greeted me was Leo, comfortably seated on the sofa, playing a video game, looking utterly carefree. His stomach seemed rounder than before, a clear sign he hadn't been living poorly lately. I had instructed my people not to disturb him, even occasionally sending him gourmet food, all in preparation for today's drama. The moment Serena saw Leo, she rushed towards him, clutching his hands, her voice trembling. Darling, are you all right? Did they bully you? Leo pulled his hands away, frowning. What could possibly happen to me? On the contrary, you were in there so long. Jax Vance probably didn't cause me much trouble. He even said I wasn't worthy of you, that you went to jail because of me. Wasn't it your own choice? Tell me, you only love me, right? At his words, Serena's face instantly paled. She had just been released, noticeably thinner, her skin sallow, her cheeks sunken. The woman who once exuded an air of aloof elegance now looked like a mere shadow. After a week in detention, she had eaten meat only twice and endured considerable hardship. Yet, hearing the man she loved not only offer no comfort, but accuse her, his voice full of suspicion, her lips trembled, but she couldn't speak. I stood at the door, silently observing the scene, my heart unruffled, finding it simply amusing. Just then, Mrs. Albright arrived. The moment she entered, she eagerly pulled my arm. "Jax, look, Serena is out now. You two should quickly set the wedding date again. Let's not give outsiders more to talk about." I deliberately frowned, my voice calm. "Andy, not right now. Serena has just been released. There are hundreds of eyes watching the Albright and Vance families. If I were to hold an engagement now, people would say Vance Holdings is shielding a criminal. Let's wait a while longer." Serena, hearing this, panicked. She rushed forward and grabbed my wrist. "Jax, Vance, why are you refusing me? You don't want to marry me anymore? Didn't you always say you wanted to marry me?" I laughed as if I'd just heard the most foolish joke in the world, shaking off her hand, a cold smile on my face. "Serena Albright, don't discuss me further. Vance Holdings is not a junkyard. We don't take and discarded things. Before, I wanted to marry you because I saw commercial marriage as an exchange of benefits. Now that you are like this, whoever wants you can have you." With that, I turned and walked away. Before leaving the apartment, I instructed my assistant to send Leo the recording of Serena's and his conversation, so he would know that the love he cherished in his heart was worth nothing in Serena Albright's eyes. Sure enough, that night, Leo rushed to the Albright family mansion, creating a scene. He sat on the steps, yelling Serena's name, crying until his voice was hoarse. The butler tried to persuade him to leave several times to no avail, eventually having to call security to forcibly remove him. During the struggle, Leo's head struck the stone steps and blood streamed down. When the ambulance arrived, Mrs. Albright rushed out to see. Before being placed on the stretcher, Leo pulled a piece of paper from his pocket, threw it at her, and yelled, "Look, Serena Albright is pregnant with my child. You can't treat me like this." Mrs. Albright picked up the paper, and her body stiffened the moment she saw it. A medical examination report. The words were clear: "Pregnant, Serena Albright, father of child, Leo." Her eyes widened, her body trembled, then she collapsed on the spot, her heart condition acting up. Finally, the ambulance carried away two people: Leo, his head covered in blood, and Mrs. Albright, unconscious. When my subordinate reported back, I was reviewing a series of photos. They included intimate shots of Serena Albright and Leo in the apartment, as well as an image of Mrs. Albright signing the Albright Corporation transfer contract. I selected the two clearest ones and said over the phone, "Send these two photos to the newspaper. Find a reporter to write a compelling article for me. The content should state that the Albright heiress is pregnant before marriage. A third party caused a ruckus, and her mother was hospitalized with a serious illness. Vance Holdings will cover all sponsorship fees for the latter half of this year." The person on the other end immediately replied, "Understood, Mr. Vance. I'll do it right away." I hung up, slipped my car keys into my pocket, grabbed my coat, and walked out the door, my lips curving slightly. In my mind, there was only one thought. The tragedy of the Albright family had only just begun. It was time to visit the hospital and witness the unfolding drama. After all, Serena Albright must be in dire need of comfort right now. On the way, I thought of the unfortunate lovers, Serena Albright and Leo. Their coming days, I feared, would be even more miserable than their time in detention. Monday morning, the sky was overcast, a persistent drizzle falling. The moment I arrived at the gates of Albright Corporation, I saw a group of security guards surrounding someone. It was Serena Albright. She wore a crumpled business suit, her face as pale as paper. I heard she had recently suffered a miscarriage. Now, standing in the rain, her hair plastered to her cheeks, she had lost all the radiant poise of the golden heiress she once was. Seeing the security guards block her, she immediately erupted in a fury, screaming, "Are you blind? Don't you know who I am? I am the owner of Albright Corporation. You dare stop me? I'll fire all of you." The security guards' faces were emotionless, their actions unwavering. They had long since received my orders. Serena Albright no longer had any connection to Albright Corporation. She was absolutely not to be allowed a single step into the building. I instructed my driver to stop the Maybach right in front of the gate. As I stepped out, several umbrellas immediately shielded me. The senior executives of Albright Corporation rushed out, forming a line, bowing respectfully. "Mr. Vance, you've arrived. The meeting is about to begin. Would you like to rest in your office for a moment?" Those two words, Mr. Vance, were like needles piercing Serena Albright's heart. She spun around, her eyes full of hatred, her voice hoarse as she screamed, "Jax Vance, I trusted you so much. I wanted to marry you. Yet you betrayed me, used me to win over people, took over Albright Holdings shares, and even incited the board to kick me out of the company. How could you treat me like this?" She grew more agitated with each word, lunging to grab my collar, but an executive beside me pushed her aside. The woman, Elara, spoke with a sharp voice. "Miss Albright, how dare you even speak? When you blocked traffic for that, young man, enraging the public and causing Albright Corporation to falter, why didn't you consider the company's honor then? Albright Corporation stands today only because of Mr. Vance. What right do you have to come here and cause trouble?" Serena stumbled, falling face first into a puddle of rainwater with a heavy splash. Her crumpled dress was soaked, clinging to her body, making her look like a dirty rag. She looked up, her eyes filled with resentment, gazing at the faces that had once bowed and flattered her. Her voice was trembling, yet fierce. "Are all of you so willing to become dogs for him, just because he's a Vance and not an Albright? This is betrayal, unforgivable betrayal." The female executive sneered. "Betrayal? When you, for a man, nearly bankrupted Albright Corporation, why didn't you call that betrayal? Mr. Vance is worthy of leadership. You are not." I cleared my throat, and the woman immediately fell silent, her eyes still fixed on me with deference. I didn't even bother to glance down at Serena Albright, simply walking into the building. A person who only caused disaster, leading to plummeting stock prices and ruined company reputation, being cast out of the picture was already a mild consequence. This outcome was merely well-deserved retribution. Entering the boardroom, my assistant approached, handing me a file, his voice soft. "Mr. Vance, the court just sent notification. Leo has been sentenced to 3 years in prison on charges of fraud and defamation." I opened the file, flipping through a few pages, my eyes devoid of surprise. Earlier, Leo had live-streamed a clarification, claiming Serena Albright and I had conspired to have a child to secure the Vance family legacy. In response, his own academic advisor spoke out, stating that Leo had dropped out of university 6 months ago and was long overdue for expulsion. Then, neighbors came forward, revealing his family was deeply indebted due to his parents' gambling addiction, even owing them $50,000. As for defaming Vance Holdings, he had infringed upon the interests of numerous subsidiary companies. I didn't even need to intervene. Naturally, someone would teach him a lesson. My assistant continued, "I heard Leo cried in court, saying he wanted to meet you one last time. His lawyer declined on your behalf." I tossed the file onto the table, a faint, cold laugh escaping me. "Meet me? He's not worthy. To be in the presence of such a person for even a minute feels like defilement." Over the next week, I dedicated myself entirely to restructuring Albright Corporation. All of the raw materials, supply chains, production lines, and market segments that the Albright family had built over decades were neatly acquired by Vance Holdings. In the past, when Vance Holdings was weaker, my parents had been oppressed by the Albright family, forced to endure humiliation bit by bit. My parents, back then, had to humble themselves, bowing and pleading countless times just to discuss cooperation with the Albright family. Now, Vance Holdings stood firm, and the Albright family, in turn, had to lower themselves to beg. Serena Albright had disdained me, believing I was unworthy, wanting to use Vance Holdings as a stepping stone to climb higher. Well, now look, they had personally delivered the entire Albright family into my hands. Consider it the debt from years past, finally repaid by my own hand. I transferred a sum of money to Mrs. Albright, enough for her to live the rest of her life in comfort, free from financial worries. As for Serena Albright, I didn't care if Mrs. Albright chose to share any of it with her. That was up to her. After all, Serena Albright herself had destroyed the entire Albright family and killed her mother's last hope. That evening, I stood on the top floor of the former Albright Corporation building, looking down at the bustling traffic below, the city lights sparkling like a sea of stars. My assistant entered, handing me a report, and said respectfully, "Mr. Vance, all of Albright Corporation's resources have been successfully integrated. Vance Holdings' market value has now increased by an additional $30 billion." I took the report, gazing at the coal numbers on the page, my heart strangely calm. 2 generations of Vance family's arduous planning had, today, finally been completed in my hands. And the tragedy of Serena Albright and Leo had, at last, reached its conclusion. So-called love, in the face of power and profit, was worth less than a dime. I placed the report on the table and said casually, "Announced to all employees, tomorrow, we will hold a company-wide meeting. I will declare that Vance Holdings and Albright Corporation have officially merged. From now on, there will be no Albright Corporation, only Vance Holdings." My assistant nodded slightly. "Yes, Mr. Vance, I'll arrange it immediately." As my assistant left, I turned back to the glass window. The city at night was resplendent, its lights reflecting my image on the glass, my lips faintly curved, my eyes as cold as ice. My commercial empire would continue to expand. From now on, no one would dare to look down on Vance Holdings, and no one would dare to play their foolish games of love in front of me again. Because in this world, only the power and profit held in one's hands truly exist.